I thought he was just another tired cop at the end of a rough shift. But the way he looked at me, like I was the only thing keeping him grounded, changed everything. I let him in, trusted his intensity. But loving a man who's trained to protect everyone but himself? That kind of love doesn't come easy, especially when the world doesn't think we should exist. I wasn't looking for anything that night. I'd just finished a brutal double shift in the ER and stopped by O'Hara's for a drink. I wanted silence, maybe a shot to dull the edge of the day. What I didn't expect was him. He sat at the far end of the bar like the storm he was trying to hold back might explode if anyone got too close. Police uniform still on, sleeves rolled, badge nowhere in sight, his hand wrapped around a whiskey like it was anchoring him to the present. He caught me staring. Then he tilted his head. Just slightly. Just enough to say, "Come here if you're brave enough." I walked over like my legs had a mind of their own. "You off shift?" I asked, sliding onto the stool next to him. "Something like that," he replied without looking at me. Voice low, controlled. "You? ER nurse, 12 hours, 2 codes, and 1 overdose." I didn't mean to sound like I was comparing scars, but he looked over finally. Sharp brown eyes, unreadable. "I figured we might be in the same war, just on different fronts." That got half a smile out of him. "Nathan." "Evan." We shook hands, but his grip lingered a second longer than necessary. Not flirtatious, just deliberate. For the next hour, we didn't talk about uniforms. We talked about music, adrenaline, childhood dreams we abandoned, and the kind of silence that only comes after witnessing something you can't unsee. He was magnetic without trying. Every word felt like something unsaid lived beneath it. Eventually, I asked, "You always drink alone after work?" "Only when I don't want to go home." "You live alone?" Number, but being in that apartment doesn't always mean I'm not alone. Something in his voice cracked, and I didn't push, I just nodded. "You get it," he said after a beat. "Most people don't." "I do," I told him. "More than you probably think." Silence settled again. Not awkward, more like tense. He turned toward me slightly, elbow on the bar, eyes narrowing. "Have you ever dated someone in law enforcement?" I shook my head. Number, why? Because most people think they can handle it until they can't. The hours, the mood swings, the trauma, the way this job bleeds into every part of your life. He was warning me, but his voice was closer than before, softer. "I work in an ER, Nathan. I've had blood under my fingernails and lost 3 patients in one night. You're not going to scare me off by being intense." His jaw tightened. "I'm not talking about the trauma. I'm talking about the way I care." I waited. Let him say it. "I'm not casual. When I'm in, I'm in. That means I'll want to know if you're okay, where you are, if you're safe. I'll care too much, too fast, and I don't apologize for it." I felt my chest tighten, but not from fear, from recognition. "I don't want casual," I said. "Not anymore." His expression didn't change, but something behind it softened. "Let me ask you something else," he said. "Why'd you come over?" "Because you look like someone trying not to fall apart." He stared at me for a long time, like he was deciding if he could trust me with whatever part of him was unraveling. "I arrested a guy today," he said finally. "4th domestic call in 3 months. Every time she refused to press charges. Today she couldn't speak. Broken jaw. He still almost walked." I didn't say anything, just let him keep talking. "I'm supposed to protect people, but the system doesn't want to, and I'm tired of pretending I believe it's enough to show up and fill out paperwork while people like her bleed." "I know that helpless feeling," I said, "watching someone suffer and knowing you can't stop it." He looked down at his glass. "It makes you angry. And tired. And dangerous," he said, glancing at me again. "Because once you stop trusting the system, you start making decisions it wouldn't approve of." "Like what?" "Like trusting a stranger in a bar because they looked at you like you weren't broken." His words hit harder than I expected, because I had looked at him that way. And for the first time in a long while, someone was seeing me the same way. But I didn't know that choosing Nathan wasn't just about accepting his intensity. It meant stepping into a world where trust came at a price, and not everyone wanted us to exist. Nathan didn't kiss me that night. He just walked me to my car in silence. then reached out and squeezed the back of my neck like he wasn't ready to let go, but didn't know how to stay either. "You gonna text me?" I asked. "Yeah," he said, barely above a whisper. "If you're sure." "I'm sure." He did text, that same night, and the next morning, and every day after that. It wasn't flirtation, it was focus. Controlled, steady, like I'd become a part of his routine, like he was already keeping tabs. "You home? Call me when you get off. Text me before you leave." I didn't mind. I liked it, if I'm being honest. No one had ever cared that way. Not my ex, not my parents, who still thought this phase would pass. Nathan's attention wasn't romantic in the traditional sense. It was protective, sharp-edged, and for someone who was used to being the one who did the caretaking, it felt necessary. But things shifted 3 weeks in, slowly, then all at once. It started when I canceled dinner last minute. A trauma case had come in. I couldn't leave. When I finally got a break to check my phone, Nathan had sent nothing. "No, are you okay? No, where are you?" I called him the second I stepped outside. No answer. I called again after my shift. Still nothing. The silence was louder than anything he could have said. He showed up at my apartment the next morning. No warning, no apology, just standing there in uniform, looking exhausted and tense. "Why didn't you answer me?" I asked. "I needed space," he said. "For what?" I was angry. "Because I had to work? Because I didn't know if you were hurt or ignoring me," he snapped, then immediately softened. And I didn't know how to deal with that without reacting like a cop who's used to worst-case scenarios. We sat in silence for a moment. "I don't want to scare you, Evan, but I also don't know how to love halfway." "I don't need you to love halfway," I said, "but you can't disappear on me either." He nodded like he understood, but his eyes didn't agree. That night marked a shift. Not dramatic, not visible to outsiders, but the weight between us started to change. He still cared, obsessively, but the cracks in his armor were showing, and I didn't know if I was allowed to reach through them. A week later, we were at a small birthday dinner for one of my coworkers. It was the first time Nathan met any of my friends. They were kind, a little too curious, maybe a little too casual when one of them said, "So what's it like dating a cop? Do you ever get cuffed just for fun?" Nathan froze. It was meant as a joke. Everyone laughed, except him. He didn't say anything the rest of the night. Drove us home in silence. When we got to my place, I tried to lighten the mood. It was just a dumb joke. "I'm not a punchline," he said quietly. "I don't like being reduced to a uniform." "You think I don't get that?" I said. "I'm the guy everyone calls when their date drinks too much and passes out. They never ask what it's like to lose someone at 2 a.m. They just want stories." Nathan didn't reply. He just stood there staring at the floor like he wasn't in the room anymore. "You don't talk to your coworkers about me," he said suddenly. "What?" "I've seen the way they look, like they're waiting for us to fall apart. They don't even know you." Exactly. There it was, the line I hadn't seen coming. His world had walls, mine had doors, and he didn't like that they opened too easily. The next few days I tried to give him space. Fewer calls, fewer texts. Let him initiate everything. He didn't. And then, one night he just vanished. No calls, no messages, nothing. I went to his place, no answer. I went to his precinct. They said he'd taken a few days off. I waited 3 of those days. On the 4th, I found out he was staying at a friend's place across town. An ex, apparently. I stood outside that apartment for 20 minutes before walking away without knocking. When he finally called, his voice was raw. "I panicked," he said. "I felt like I was becoming someone I used to be. Possessive, jealous, controlling. And I didn't want you to see that version of me. So you disappeared." I thought it was the right thing to do. "It wasn't," I said flatly. "It was cowardly." "I know. What do you want from me, Nathan?" "I want you. I just don't know how to be what you need without becoming someone I hate." "You think I need perfect?" I asked. "Because I never asked for that. I just needed you to stay." He didn't respond right away. "I don't know how to stay without breaking things." "You already did." I thought the worst part was him walking away, But what came next would test everything I believed about love, forgiveness, and whether some wounds are meant to heal at all. The night Nathan left, something cracked inside me. Not because of his silence. I'd lived through worse. But because I let someone in, fully, and they still chose the exit. I didn't text. I didn't call. I waited for that ache to become manageable, and then I buried it under work. My shift doubled. My phone went silent. People at the hospital noticed I was quieter, more focused. Some called it maturity. I called it survival. 3 weeks passed. On a Wednesday night, just after midnight, I walked out of the ER to find Nathan leaning against my car. He looked like a man who hadn't slept. He straightened up when he saw me, but didn't move closer. "I didn't come to explain," he said. "I came to ask if I can talk." "I don't have anything left to give you," I replied. "Just 5 minutes." I sighed. "Say what you need to say." He ran a hand down his face like he didn't know where to start. "I didn't leave because I stopped caring. I left because I realized I've only ever known how to protect other people by controlling everything around them. I didn't know how to just be with someone without trying to take over their life." I stayed silent. I saw myself starting to get angry about things that weren't threats, friends, jokes, your independence. And instead of working through it, I ran. "You stayed with your ex." He nodded, ashamed. "Not like that. He's someone who knows what I'm like at my worst. He reminded me I've been here before." "That's supposed to comfort me?" "No," he admitted. "It's supposed to tell you that I don't want to be that person again." I finally looked at him. "You don't get to leave when it gets hard, then come back because you miss the comfort." "I didn't come back for comfort," he said. "I came back because I love you, and I don't want to lose the chance to figure out how to love you in a way that doesn't hurt you." That word, love, it hit different. I hadn't let myself believe he felt it. I swallowed hard. "You think love is enough?" "No," he said. "That's why I started therapy. Weekly. And I'm taking time off to sort out what kind of man I want to be outside the badge." I hadn't expected that. "You're serious?" "I've never been more serious." Part of me wanted to run. The other part, the bigger part, wanted to believe him. "I need time," I said. "You've got it, as much as you need." He stepped away, gave me space. No demand, no control, just presence. That night I didn't sleep. The next few weeks were cautious. Nathan didn't push. He texted sometimes, mostly checking in. But he didn't ask for meetings, didn't ask for updates, and somehow that told me more than any apology could. Then the confrontation with my family came. I hadn't planned to come out to them like that, but my mother asked why I'd been distant lately, why I wasn't smiling anymore, why I seemed worn down. So I told her everything about Nathan, about the relationship, about the pain. My father's face went blank, then cold. "So you're seriously telling me you were dating a man? A cop?" "Yes." "And you're proud of this?" "I'm not proud or ashamed. I'm just done hiding it." My mother cried. My father said I'd embarrassed the family, that I'd lost my way. I left without another word. That night I got a message from Nathan. "You don't have to go through this alone." I called him. He picked up immediately. "They know," I said. "I'm sorry. They think I ruined everything." "You didn't," he replied. "You did something brave." We talked for an hour, about everything and nothing. And for the first time since he left, I felt like we were speaking as equals, not as protector and dependent. A few days later, he asked if we could meet in person. I agreed. We sat in his car, parked in a quiet lot near the water. "I've been thinking a lot about what went wrong," he said, "and I realized I never gave you a choice. I just took over. You were trying to keep me safe. And in doing so, I made you feel powerless. I never asked what you needed. I just assumed." I nodded. "You wanted control because it made you feel like you were doing your job, even off duty." He looked at me. "Exactly." I took a breath. "So let's do this differently. You don't get to protect me. You get to support me. That means I tell you what I need, and you actually listen." "I can do that," he said. "I want to do that." "Then we can try again, but on new terms. No more silence, no more disappearing, No more deciding what's best for me without asking. Nathan nodded. Agreed. We sat there for a long time watching the water, neither of us saying much. But this silence felt different. Not empty, not dangerous. It felt like a beginning. But rebuilding trust is never a straight line, and just when we thought we were finally stable, a call from Nathan's precinct would remind us both that the past doesn't let go that easily. We were finally okay. Not perfect, not effortless, but honest. Nathan listened more. I spoke up more. We'd stopped walking on eggshells and started laying ground rules. And for a while it worked, until the call that shattered all of it. He was in the kitchen pouring coffee when his phone buzzed. He didn't flinch, just glanced at the screen and let it ring out. Who was that? I asked. He didn't answer right away. Just said, work. But the way his jaw tightened told me it was more than that. Everything all right? Not really. What happened? Nathan finally met my eyes. A guy from the precinct saw us last week, at the farmer's market, holding hands. I froze. And? He told my lieutenant. My stomach dropped. Are you in trouble? No, he said. Not officially, but it started. What has? He looked tired. The distance, the side eyes, the sudden reassignment to night shifts without explanation. They're not saying anything out loud, but they don't have to. I sat down. So what are you going to do? Nathan's voice was low. I don't know. That silence between us, the same one we'd fought so hard to escape, started creeping in again. Only this time, it wasn't from us. It was from everything pressing against us. Later that week, he came home later than usual. Said nothing as he dropped his bag and sat down like he'd just come back from war. I got pulled off the community outreach program, he finally said. That's the work you cared about most. He nodded. Did they say why? They didn't need to. They just said it's not a good time for me to be a representative of the department. It wasn't about his work. It was about us. I should have never let them see you, he muttered. That hit harder than it should have. What do you mean by that? I asked. I mean, I should have been more careful about us in public. I stood up. So now I'm a liability? No, he said quickly. I didn't mean it like that. But that's what you said. Nathan stood too, stepping closer. I'm angry, not at you, at them, at how fast they turned on me. And now what? You're going to shove me back in the closet so you can feel safer at work? Evan, come on. Don't. Evan, come on me. You promised. No more disappearing. No more pretending. I'm not disappearing, he said, voice cracking. I'm drowning. That stopped me. I fought for us, he continued. I've gone to therapy. I've shown up, but I can't lose everything I've built just because they can't handle who I am outside the badge. And I can't be someone you only love behind closed doors. We stared at each other, two men caught between what we needed and what the world told us we could have. You want me to pretend this relationship doesn't exist? I asked. No, he said. I want to figure out how to protect it. By hiding it? By surviving long enough to change the system from inside. I shook my head. You don't change systems by surrendering to them. Nathan stepped back like I'd slapped him. So what then? I quit? I throw away a decade of service just to prove a point? Number. But if you're asking me to be your secret again, I can't. He looked gutted. I'm not asking you to be my secret. I'm asking you to understand that I'm scared. So am I, but I'm still standing here. He didn't answer, just looked down like the weight of the badge was suddenly too heavy to carry. I walked out that night, not forever, but long enough to breathe without feeling like I was disappearing in someone else's fight. 2 days passed, no messages. On the third, a knock at my door. It was Nathan, in street clothes, no badge, no shield. I talked to my lieutenant, he said, told him the rumors were true, that I'm dating a man, that I won't apologize for it. My heart was racing. And they offered me a transfer, out of the public eye, less visible, quieter, safer. I waited. I turned it down. A pause. I told them I'll keep doing my job the way I always have, but I won't hide anymore. If that costs me promotions, connections, even this job eventually, I'll figure it out. but I'm not going to lose you trying to make them comfortable. Tears welled in my eyes before I could stop them. You're sure? I've never been more sure of anything. We didn't hug. We didn't kiss. We just stood there, looking at each other like men who'd finally chosen something that couldn't be taken away. It wasn't the kind of ending people write about. It was raw, imperfect, and still unfolding. But it was real. And for the first time, we weren't surviving for each other. We were surviving with each other. 3 months after Nathan turned down the transfer, everything changed again. But not the way we feared. People stopped whispering at work, not because they approved, but because he stopped giving them the power to make him flinch. He did his job. He showed up. He outworked everyone who doubted him. The silence became respect. At the hospital, people still ask questions, curious ones, some subtle, some loaded. Is it hard dating someone who carries a gun? Does he ever bring the job home? Are you worried about him being outed more publicly? I answered calmly. Not to prove anything. Just because I was done shrinking. One night after a late shift, I came home to find Nathan sitting on the couch, reading through a foster care packet. You serious about this? I asked. He looked up. I think we could give a teenager something stable, something real. You sure now's the time? I'm not sure about anything except that I want to build a life where I'm not just surviving every week. I want us to give someone else what we almost didn't have: safety, structure, consistency. I sat down beside him. You think we're ready? He looked at me. Not with certainty, but with conviction. We've walked through fire. We didn't burn. We learned. Over the next few weeks, we filled out forms, took required classes, and met with caseworkers. They asked hard questions about our relationship, our stability, our ability to parent kids with trauma of their own. Some asked it carefully. Others didn't bother hiding their doubt. Do you think a same-sex household with a police officer is the right environment for a queer teenager who's experienced systemic trauma? Nathan didn't get defensive. He just said, I know what it means to fail someone when you're the person who's supposed to protect them. And I know how to listen now. That makes me better. By the time we were approved, it didn't feel like the end of a process. It felt like the start of something harder and better. We were matched with a 15-year-old named Luis. Quiet, guarded, smart but withdrawn. He'd been bounced between group homes since age 9. Ran away twice. Got suspended for talking back when a teacher said boys don't cry. When he arrived, he didn't say much. Looked around like we might vanish the second he got comfortable. That first week, Nathan barely spoke unless Luis initiated. I cooked. Luis mostly ate in silence. But something shifted when Nathan came home one night in uniform and didn't speak to Luis like a kid, but like someone who understood. You ever feel like no one's on your side? Nathan asked him, leaning against the wall. Luis just nodded. Nathan didn't say more, didn't lecture, just left space. That night, Luis asked if he could help me with dishes. That was how it started. Weeks passed, then months. Luis started trusting the rhythm, started texting when he got to school, started opening up about his dreams and nightmares. The first time he called Nathan Dad, we were in the middle of dinner and no one corrected it. Because it felt right. One evening, Luis asked me, how do you know someone won't stop caring about you? I thought about it. You don't, but if they keep showing up, even when it's hard, that's how you learn to trust it. He nodded slowly. Is that why you stayed with him? He asked, glancing toward Nathan, who was outside fixing the fence. Partly, but mostly because he stopped making me feel like I had to earn his love. He just gave it. Luis thought for a moment. That's new for me. It was new for both of us. Later that night, Nathan pulled me aside. You think we're doing okay with him? I think we're the first people who haven't given up on him. Nathan exhaled. That used to be me. We didn't say much after that. Didn't need to. A year later, on the anniversary of the night we met, Nathan proposed. No grand speech, just a quiet moment in our kitchen. 2 mugs of coffee, a ring. I'm not asking for forever because it's easy, he said. I'm asking because even after everything, you're still the only person who makes me feel like I'm not fighting the world alone. I didn't hesitate. Yes. At the ceremony, we kept it small. Just friends, a few family members who'd come around, and Luis, who stood beside us in a suit he hated, pretending he wasn't emotional. Later that night, as we sat around the fire pit outside, Luis handed Nathan a card. Inside was a sentence in shaky handwriting. "Thanks for choosing to protect me, even when no one asked you to." Nathan didn't speak, just wrapped an arm around his shoulders and held on. Love doesn't always arrive quietly. Sometimes it demands space. Sometimes it pulls away. Sometimes it comes in the form of a man who thought authority meant control, until he learned that the real kind is about presence, consistency, and the willingness to stay when it's hardest. We didn't break, we rebuilt, and what we built was real.